Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Join me, Courtney Lewis,
And me, Carly Ferguson,
in our conversational podcast about everyday situations.
You can count on us to tell it to you straight with our own sisterly spin.
Consider this a phone call with your own Southern sisters as we discuss with you personal accountability, healthy relationships, managing responsibilities, and contributing to society.
Each episode will consist of straight talk and a call to action.
Your sisters are calling.
Thanks for answering.
Welcome to Hey Sister. This is episode 24, Wanderlust. Carly, do you say Wanderlust or Wanderlust?
Wanderlust.
Wanderlust?
I don't say it very often.
I know. We don't really get a chance to say Wanderlust very often. So we're either Wanderlusts or Wanderlost, or we get lost wandering.
We're not Wanderlost, but definitely Wanderlust.
Okay, Wanderlust. Welcome to a new month, sisters. And we've got a new theme for y'all. This month's theme is Vacation Ready, with episodes that will dive into why vacations are important, the inside scoop on Airbnbs, tips and tricks for family vacations, and navigating Disneyland. We've got some really exciting stuff in store for y'all. And Carly, why don't you introduce today's guest? I'm so excited.
It's a privilege to introduce this dear friend of mine who has inspired me since the day I met her. Madeline Hamilton is an adventurous and creative soul. She grew up in College Station, Texas, the oldest of 6 with 5 younger brothers. She went to school at the Art Institute in Dallas, and that's where I met her at a local church activity. Her license plate at the time read Nomad, a nod to Nomadeline, a pun after my own heart. She truly lives a wanderlust kind of life in that she continues growing and exploring different facets of herself. Some of which include, musically, she has released an album on most streaming music platforms titled Nomadeline. Professionally, she is the Chief Marketing Officer of Ivy City Co., which I know many know her from, but maybe less known is she is also a service expedition coordinator for Somewhere Devine, in which she researches the cultures and needs around the world, partners with nonprofits, builds itineraries, books trips, and leads groups of 50 people in providing service and exploring a new country. She is a loving wife to Connolly and mother to Hattie, and a friend to all who know her. Today, she'll be sharing her thoughts on travel and how it sparks her creativity. With all that, Madeline, welcome to Hey Sister.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here.
Woohoo!
Honestly, it's just a good excuse to hang out with you.
Yeah, I know. If only we could actually travel to each other for this. So, should we just kick it right off? Why is traveling important, Madeline? Tell us.
Well, I could say about 1.5 million things, but I feel like I love to sum it up as there's this quote and it goes, travel is the only thing you can buy that makes you richer. And I think that's so cool and so true because anytime you go somewhere new, you learn something and you walk away a better person. Your eyes are opened, your heart is opened. So I feel like travel can be just a way to expand yourself easily.
That's so beautiful. What a cool thought that is, especially because traveling ends up costing so much money. So I like that thought that it's totally opposite of what your wallet might feel like during a trip when you just seem to keep spending more and more, or you realize, oh dear, I forgot something at home. For me, I'm like, oh, I forgot contact solution. There goes another $10. It's like little things like that. You're like, oh, okay, guess this is just going to keep going on to the travel budget.
But you get to see through new eyes, huh?
See through new eyes. Exactly.
And next time you forget that solution and you find yourself at Walgreens at 1 a.m., just tell yourself, I'm actually getting richer through this experience.
Yes, totally.
I like that justification. It'll make me feel less guilty for forgetting something essential.
But yeah, traveling, it's such a near and dear topic for my life. I feel like I've met some of my absolute best friends through traveling. I've learned some of my greatest life lessons. I've bonded with people I already had relationships with on a deeper level by traveling. It's really just an opportunity to learn about yourself, cultures, the people you love. It's so cool.
You're saying that it's helping you to learn. Can you also talk a little bit about how traveling inspires you?
Yeah. As an artist, I always say that traveling is my greatest tool. It's my greatest form of inspiration. And it really just boils down to that concept of learning. I feel like we keep circling back to that. So let's roll with it. But it just opens your eyes. You see things that you haven't seen before. You taste food you've never experienced before. And it really is just this all sensory experience as you travel. And for me, one of my favorite things about traveling is it allows me the time that normally I don't give myself to actually be creative. It gives me space and time to just absorb everything around me and actually process it, where I feel like my life is typically reactive in the day to day. It's just doing this, reacting to this, go, go, go. But when you're traveling, you actually have time to process what's happening and be creative.
I feel like that takes a lot of courage to immerse yourself in some new place, new things that are going on in experiences, like you said. I love that you talk about it being a muse for your creative side.
It totally is.
That inspires me to want to go to some place as a muse for something else in my life. Just build that bridge.
I totally love that you said it can be scary too, because I think that's something we don't talk about a lot. I feel like on, especially Instagram, you just see the highlight reel. I'm in Paris, here's the Eiffel Tower, all these beautiful pictures. But honestly, it does take bravery to travel, especially if you're going internationally, especially if it's foreign languages. It can be scary. As much as it is beautiful and it's a learning opportunity, it does take a sense of bravery to be able to step out in a world where you don't know the streets. You're maybe driving on the other side of the road. You don't speak the language. And it does take courage to just put yourself out there to be able to learn.
So Madeline, I've got a question for you. Speaking of all this creativity that's fostered, all the bravery that you're channeling to go on a vacation, I'm curious if you can remember a time specifically that you've been inspired creatively. Can you share any specific examples with either music or your work with Ivy City Co., how your vacation has actually cultivated some creative experience in your life?
This is such a cool question. So the first thing that's coming to my mind is there was this one time in New York, and it has a very special meaning for me because this was my very first vacation with my business partners, Whitney and Tosh, that they founded Ivy City Co. And I came on as the third owner and CMO, like Carly mentioned. But this was our very first trip traveling together. And we actually went to a fabric convention where we got to touch and feel and look at fabrics all around the world. That was really cool because we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We've never been to something like this. We've never traveled together. So here we are in New York. We're going through all these fabrics and the inspiration is just flowing. We ended up taking tons of pictures, taking swatches with us, and we just went all around the city. We sat at the park, we went to different restaurants, and we brought our fabric swatches with us in our notebooks, and we just sketched and drew. And it was so inspiring. And especially my partners, they have multiple kids, and the day-to-day life can get so repetitive and busy, which it's beautiful, but it's different. And being in a new city and having that space and time to allow us to be creative was so special and such a special memory for me.
I love that. And I remember seeing some of those pictures coming through on Instagram and feeling connected to that experience, even just as a third party bystander, feeling those joyful moments. So those were relationships with your partners. Obviously, y'all are friends and you're close. That was built from going and traveling together. How has traveling with family and other friends strengthened your relationships?
I feel like my favorite part about traveling with family, especially for me, my family lives far away. I moved away from Texas. So my mom and all my brothers were all far away. I feel like traveling with them is really when I get to reconnect because we FaceTime, we chat, but I feel like every time I talk to them, it's just like a quick touch base catch up. But when we travel, we break barriers. The first day is a catch up and all that stuff. And then after all the questions are answered, it opens up this doorway of just making memories together. We're reacting to the scenes around us. We're telling each other things about each other we never knew. And it's like, how is that possible? We're related, but it happens. No matter how long you've known someone, there's always something new to learn about them. And traveling really opens up the door to be able to learn about the people closest to you. I feel like you just break down those barriers.
That's awesome.
And I think about, so my mom and I traveled internationally a couple of years ago before, the world shut down. That's what we're going to call it. My mom had never left the country ever. And I had this opportunity with Somewhere Devine to take a group of 50 to Vietnam and Japan. And they told me I could bring a +1. And I'm like, I guess I could bring my husband, but I want to bring my mom. She's never left the country. We have to do this. And that was honestly the best thing my mom and I have ever done together. In the beginning, it felt like mother-daughter. By the end of the trip, it felt like friendship.
That's awesome.
Wow. International travel is something I've not really broached yet, aside from an all-inclusive resort in Mexico.
Hey, that's a good time, though. Let's be honest.
It was a good time, but it's nothing like Vietnam or Thailand or some of the awesome places that I've heard you've traveled. I love hearing about your adventures. Carly's told me some cool things that you do that add sparks of creativity and fun into your travel. Could you talk a little bit more about some of those flares you've incorporated?
Okay, this is the number one thing I'm going to say about how to make your trip fun. And some people are not going to like this answer. especially people maybe like Carly that love to have a plan. But my advice to you, if you want to add fun and sparks of adventure, is to not have a full itinerary. That doesn't mean just go with zero plan. You can totally have a few days planned out or like a general idea, but at least just promise me you'll leave one day where you have no plans. I know you're looking at me like I'm crazy, but those always end up being my favorite days because it just forces you to be spontaneous and figure out something together.
That is adventurous. It's really good. Courtney's a little bit more of a planner even than I am.
I know, her eyes open so big. But here, I'll give you an example. So when we went to Japan, there was an itinerary for every single day, except for there was one day. It was even half day where it was like, you guys can do whatever you want. It's a free for all. And my mom and I were like, okay, let's just find something random. We just got on Google and we're like, let's just make this up. We found out there's this random city where deer just live among the people. And I'm not even kidding. They just walk around. You're walking across the street on stoplights where there's a walk sign and the deer wait for the walk sign. And when it turns to walk, they walk with you across the street. I'm not kidding.
So they have the deer crossing signs at the correct place.
So my mom and I are like, we get on a train and we go to this random city where apparently the deer are. We are walking down the street and we see you can rent bikes. Let's rent a bike. So we got on bikes. We're riding bikes with the deer. Well, the deer weren't on the bikes. They were around us. And we find a random burger place in Japan, which, okay, I'm not expecting to eat a burger. Best burger of my life. And we found a cute bookstore and we walked around and it was just the best day. And we had zero plan at the beginning of that day. You never know.
That's awesome. It's good because it relaxes this idea that you have to make so many decisions ahead of time. And if you don't make the right decisions beforehand, then it's all kaput. That somehow the whole plan is just going to crumble and it's going to be terrible. Don't let that be the voice inside your head. Let Madeline's voice be in your head.
Oh my gosh. No, it's in you. It's your own voice.
Yeah, go with your own voice, your own intuition, your own Google search. You can do it.
I'm inspired by that and I'll have to try that one time. I will say back when my husband and I were newlyweds, we tried couples counseling because the university offered a $50 gift certificate if you let a new counselor give you counseling for like 3 or 6 sessions or something like that. And so as a 1-month newlywed couple, my husband and I went to this counseling session, which ended up being really great for our marriage. We learned a lot and it was really cool. But the counselor evaluated us and told us that we had zero spontaneity. He was like, you need to go do something spontaneous and you need to plan to be spontaneous because you two are super planners.
I didn't even know this story.
Have I never told you this story?
No, you never told me this.
I'll tell you why. You'll see. So we put it on the calendar that a week from Saturday, we would be spontaneous. And that day we woke up and we looked at each other. We're like, what on earth are we going to do today? I think we sat there for like 30 minutes. I don't know what to do today. And it was so uncomfortable. Eventually we're like, do you want to drive to Pocatello, Idaho? And we just drove to Pocatello, Idaho, but we were so cheap. And so we weren't really willing to spend any money. All we did was drive there. And the only memory we have from that trip was that there were cows on the side of the road. And my husband tried to be spontaneous and he pulled off to the side of the road and he mooed at the cows.
Courtney, this is great. It's a great memory. It's a memory. I don't know. Sorry.
It was a memory. Yeah, you would have a pun. So it's just funny. I remember at the time thinking, this is so stupid. We literally just wasted an entire day. But now looking back, I haven't thought about this in years. So I'm glad you brought this up, Madeline, because now looking back, it's a good little memory that we can think about that we did that. And Cam mooed at the cows and we just chuckled about it at the time because we thought we're trying to be spontaneous like our counselor told us to do. And that's my only spontaneous story for you.
No, but you've gotten a lot better, I have to say, because like most recently when we were together, we had to change plans a little bit on the fly. We had to Google search, what are we going to do today? And we did. And we went and did one of those trampoline zone things where you jump over. And like we were little kids. It was so fun.
It was fun.
I'm so proud of y'all. This is great.
I've learned a lot since then. Maybe, you know what, Madeline, I don't think I've ever given that experience credit for helping me loosen up my joints. I'm a little bit rusty, but I have to loosen up a little bit every now and then and remember to be spontaneous because it can result in some good memories, even though the type A planner in me is like, have every hour accounted for. So thank you so much. I love that advice.
So with the planning, sometimes ahead of time, one of the best things for me to plan at least is what I'm going to wear because I can envision how the time is going to go while I'm there because I know that I can wear this particular outfit for this type of occasion and so on. So Madeline, I consider you an expert in All things fashion as well. Yay. So tell us, what are some staple things that we can bring with us?
Yes. Okay. Staple things. I have my preferences. So you do you. But first of all, I always bring like a fanny pack because you don't want to have this bag that you're taking on and off all day with the chance of leaving it behind or forgetting it. I love to just have something that's on me all the time. So whether it's a fanny pack or like a bandolier, I always pack one of those. Hey, and fanny packs are cool again. If you haven't heard, it's cool. And this is not a plug for Ivy City dresses, I swear to you, but I am very pro traveling with a good lightweight dress because I also like to take photos and it's super comfortable. They look great in pictures. You can move around in them easily. And I feel like dresses are secret weapons because people think that you got dressed up, but really it's like, this was the bare minimum. I had to put one item of clothing on. You know what I mean? So I always pack an easy lightweight dress, like cotton, something easy. And I usually only bring 2 pairs of shoes. I bring 1 pair of shoes that you can be athletic in, whether they're actually sneakers or Tevas or something like that. And then I bring a nicer pair of shoes if we're going to go out to dinners. And I swear that's all you need. I promise you don't need the 5 pairs of shoes.
That's good to know.
Obviously, if you're traveling somewhere where you're in a tundra and you're going to need some snow boots, that's a situation. But that would be my top suggestions.
Are there any other items aside from clothing that you would say are essential things to pack?
Yes, there's one thing that I always personally forget. So I'm just looking out for you. I always forget to bring headphones that you can plug in on the plane because I always bring like AirPods. Wireless is the future, right? But airplanes haven't caught up. You always have to have a plug-in and I always forget. And so I'm just watching these movies in silence that I really want to watch. So don't forget your headphones that plug in.
That's true for kids too. We were recently on a flight and I didn't bring my over-ear headphones for the kids because, you know, when you got little kids, yes, earbuds do not sit in their little ear cavities, ear canals. They're not called cavities, ear canals.
I like cavities. I feel good about ear cavities.
Well, they're ear cavities. My kids wouldn't keep their earbuds in. They were hating them. And I didn't bring their over-ear headphones. And so they're sitting there playing with their tablets. And the flight attendants, of course, got mad at them because they had their volume on level 1 out of 20. And I was just trying so hard to make it quiet enough they could hear it, but not have to put headphones on. And yeah, we got a lecture, but it's okay. So yeah, that's a good reminder because I recently forgot on our trip back to Texas.
You can't forget, especially with kids. And I will say having kids totally changes traveling. I used to be hardcore. No matter where in the world I went, how long I was going, I always took carry-on everywhere I went. I went to Europe for like 2 weeks carry-on. And then I had a kid and I realized I needed 12 bags to go anywhere. It requires so many things, but you can still travel light and it just looks different with a kid.
So Madeline, any other tips and tricks that you could share with us?
I have a whole slew of them. So if I don't cover it all, feel free to personally message me. But if I was just going to ramble off a few, my favorite places to book flights, I usually do Skyscanner or Somewhere Devine. They recently launched a travel platform and it's cool because you get really good prices, but also a percentage of your travel goes towards charity, which is super cool. And then I always do Turos versus rental car. If you don't know what Turo is, it's basically like Airbnb for cars. So you rent a person's personal car and you can get it for like 1/3 of the price. It's so easy. I feel like any rental car place takes at least an hour for some reason. And I don't know why. I'm like, here's my ID, give me my keys. But it's always like, they're also making breakfast back there. I don't know what's going on. But I always do Turo over rental cars. I've only had good experiences and I always roll my clothes, never fold. I always roll them when I pack them because you can fit twice as much stuff in your suitcase. And I think the best travel advice I've ever personally been given is to be flexible because something will always go wrong. No matter the trip, no matter if it's 24 hours long, something's not going to go to plan. And if you start the trip with the mindset that, hey, something's going to go wrong and it's going to be fine, I'm going to be flexible, it'll go so much better than if you have this expectation at the beginning of the trip that everything's going to go to plan. Just trust me, be flexible and it will change the game.
Those are all awesome. With that, where are some places that you have visited that you would consider to be must travel type places?
Yeah. So obviously I mentioned Japan earlier, and I bring that up a lot because it probably was my favorite place internationally, other than like a classic trip to Paris. Like you can't go wrong. But Japan was cool. Everyone is so kind. The cities are so clean. The food is really good. There's such a variety of sights to see. And they have a really cool train system. They have one of those super trains that goes really fast. So you can see the whole country in a really short time period. So that's very cool. But domestic, I just went to Charleston for the first time and I'm smitten. I could live there. I feel like it's the most feminine city I've ever been to. And that might sound weird, but everything is so cute. Like colorful walls, flowers everywhere, the Southern charm. I don't think I spoke to a person that was unkind. And the food was beyond. The beach was beautiful. Like I am obsessed. If you want to go somewhere in the near future, I highly suggest South Carolina. Those are the ones coming to my mind right now.
Yay. That sounds so good.
Those places sound so fun. I'm feeling all wanderlusty right now.
I know.
Wanderlusty.
Well, honestly, the truth of the matter is it doesn't matter where you go. You could literally go to the town next door. It's just the thought and the feeling of putting yourself in a new environment. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need to go far. Just getting yourself out of your daily routine is what makes traveling so amazing.
Well, I think that leads right into the call to action that we have for our sisters each week, something for them to do to continue this conversation in their own lives.
Yes. So my challenge for you, I always tell people once a year, go somewhere new you've never been before. And like I said, it doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be expensive. Just put yourself in a new environment and it will be amazing. So my challenge for you is to make a plan for what that trip is going to be for you this year.
Awesome. I love that call to action. And I do like that idea too, that it can be just the town down the street. I love it. That makes it simple, but also to dream big and maybe go someplace like Japan if that's something that you've been dying to do. Let's make it a once a year thing. That's awesome, Madeline. I know that our sisters have fallen in love with you, just like I've fallen in love with you today. I've loved meeting you, Madeline. I've heard Carley talk about you for years, so it's finally so nice to actually get to meet you. I know that sisters are going to want to connect with you. Where can our sisters find you?
Well, Courtney, the pleasure is mine to meet you because anyone that's a friend or relative of Carley is a friend of mine. And it's easy. You can find me on Instagram. Madeline Becker is my Instagram name. And my dress company is ivycityco.com. So you can connect with me any place. And I can't wait to chat.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll include links to Madeline's contact information, as she just said, in our show notes, as well as the recommendations she made. I know, Madeline, one of the things you recommended was Turo, and I have never used or heard of Turo before. So I'll have to include that in the show notes.
It's really cool. It's spelled Turo, and it's an app.
Perfect. We will include that in the show notes so that sisters, y'all can refamiliarize yourselves with the ideas that Madeline has talked about today with us. What a privilege it has been.
Yay.
The honor is mine. You guys are the best.
You're so sweet. And I'm going to try to work on being more flexible. I know the times I've been flexible, that's where memories were made. I love it.
Hey, you can make memories both ways. See, I am always flying by the seat of my pants. So I need to challenge myself to also make plans. That's why we're good friends. We meet each other in the middle.
Madeline, thanks again for joining us tonight. And thanks for all this wonderful advice today. We are all feeling so inspired. And sisters, thanks as always for answering our call this week. We'll look forward to talking to y'all next week with our episode about Airbnbs. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I am going to become, I am already, the old lady that winks as I talk to you. Now doing Zoom, it's like really terrible because I can see myself do these things. Oh gosh, I do that all the time. I didn't even include in there that you gave a TED Talk in Mexico.
It's because we don't need people to look that up. It's fine. We can just let that live in the past.
I mean, that is super cool. And I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm like, you didn't say that, Carley?
I know. I'm sorry. There were a lot of things I had to be like, okay, should we have a 5-minute long intro?